Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Fields and Forests podcast. I'm your host, Erin Keith, and I'm excited to bring you this conversation with Mr. Houston Yuille. He holds an associate's degree in environmental technologies from North Georgia Technical College, and he is a wildlife specialist with the USDA Wildlife Services division, working out of the Athens, Georgia office, where he has served 3.5 years. He has also served with other private and state agencies in similar roles. We talk about his background in agriculture, what his job looks like on a daily basis, and some valuable advice for young people considering a career in his field. Listen in as we explore the field of wildlife management with Mr. Houston Yuille. So, Mr. Yuille, what is your background in agriculture?
So my background in agriculture, my family's from Franklin County. We didn't always live here. I grew up in Gwinnett, but we always came back up here to see my dad's family. So his great uncle and great aunt, and they actually lived on the farm that we live on right now. So I grew up, working cows with him, rolling hay, moving hay bales, that kind of thing. So that was really my first experience hands-on with agriculture. My parents also lived out in Mississippi when they first got married. That's where I was born. So going back there, we got to see a lot of row cropping with stuff that we don't really see here as much, with like very large cotton farms, rice fields, and then even some aquaculture facilities where they grew catfish.
Huh. So you've been to Franklin County since you were little.
Yeah, we've been coming here, for as long as I can remember. Our family has owned the farm we live on right now for over 100 years. We're a Georgia Centennial farm. We have a sign out on the road in front of the farm that shows we've earned that award. So we've been coming back here for forever.
Wow.
My dad, he used to spend summers here. So when he was a little kid and they lived in Colonial Heights, Virginia, he would come down every summer and spend the entire summer at Leon's. We've been coming here for forever.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
When you were in middle or high school, were you in FFA or 4-H?
I was not. I did briefly join FFA at my high school. Right, but I was in Gwinnett County. I went to Mill Creek High School. We had 4,000 students. We're in the middle of the suburbs. So they had just started an FFA program, and they did a really good job with it. But I think there were like 5 students in there the first year, and it was like an extracurricular club.
Dang.
Is how they did it, right?
Yeah.
So they did a really good job. We just didn't have the student body interest yet in it. And, I was junior going into my senior year. I was doing work-based learning the next year. I went to school for 4 classes, and then I left, and I went to my job. So I didn't have time to really invest in it, and it hadn't really hit the ground. It wasn't running at full speed while I was there. I really wish I had been in FFA. That's something that I look forward for my kids in Franklin County being able to do is join FFA or 4-H and take advantage of all the stuff that y'all get to do there, because it sounds really fun, and I'm kind of miffed I missed out on it. It just wasn't really an opportunity I had growing up.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to have much to do with 5 kids in a club.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is up here y'all have so much access to ag. Mm-hmm. We just didn't have it. So like the first thing they did is they started a community garden behind the high school, which was really cool.
Pretty cool.
It was really cool, but that's all we had.
Yeah.
So with other time constraints, it just wasn't enough of a pull for me. Like I said, it's a pretty cool program now. I still think they do a lot of like urban gardening stuff.
There's a lot.
But it just wasn't there when I was there.
Mm-hmm. So after high school, did you pursue a education in agriculture?
So my after high school education experience was kind of all over the board. I feel like that's how it is for a lot of people. When I left high school, I originally wanted to teach history. Love history. Realized
like history.
As a profession and being an educator, I did not like it that as much. It's more of a hobby for me. So I transferred out of that into biology and education. And then I realized education was also not something I wanted to pursue full time. So what I ended up doing was I transitioned into a biology degree so I could be a wildlife biologist for the state of Georgia. Right. Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. I see natural resources as one of the facets of agriculture, right? Mm-hmm. Farmers steward our land for food and clothing. Well, natural resources, we're either stewarding it for timber, for construction, or just the pure value of our natural resources, right? We're still stewarding the land. And after a while at North Georgia, I realized that there were other avenues for me to do what I wanted to do. So I transferred to North Georgia Technical College in Clarksville. And they have a program. It's an associate's degree program in environmental technologies, and it's a natural resources degree in wildlife and fisheries management. So I went there and got a 2-year degree in environmental technologies. So I took classes like wildlife management, fisheries management, fishery and wildlife techniques, quantitative field sampling, dendrology, study woody plants. So I took all that over there and was able to turn that into a degree that I get a job in my field.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, we went and we toured the North Georgia Technical College earlier this year, and we got to see some of their agriculture stuff.
Okay. Did y'all see the aquaculture facility they built over there?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
That got built. I took aquaculture the year before that got finished.
Really?
So I've been back to visit my professor since then, but that is a really cool facility that they have over there. They're actually starting to do brown trout. So they're doing striped bass, some shrimp, bluegill just for the hydroponics lab or the aquaponics lab they have next door. But now they're starting to do some runs with brown trout, so they're getting to do some pretty cool stuff over there.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, for my agri-science this year, because I competed in it last year, and now I needed a new topic to do it on. And I was thinking about like aquaponics and something in that area, because I thought it was pretty cool how it like rotates with the fish. I decided against it though. Just a lot of fish. So who do you work for?
So I worked for the United States Department of Agriculture. Our program name is Wildlife Services. So we're within the USDA, and what we do is we provide federal assistance programs to people who are experiencing wildlife damage. So we do cooperative contracts to help mitigate wildlife damage.
Huh. So what does a day in your life look like in that position?
So, it varies a lot by season. 80% of my work falls in beaver management. So typically what I'm doing is I cover a geographic area. So from the Tennessee state line to Atlanta, from Atlanta to Augusta is kind of my area. It's like 2.5 hours from the house. Yeah. So any kind of beaver damage situation we have in that area gets routed to me. I'll go through, I'll contact the landowner. Typically it's a private landowner. So, maybe a farmer, it could be a subdivision. It just depends. Or it could be a timber production facility, right? So they have 200 acres and beavers are flooding out 50 acres.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I do is contact those landowners, schedule site visits. I'll go out and meet with that landowner. And typically what I'm doing is I'm going to survey the property, try and figure out what resources are being damaged, how they're being damaged, and try to quantify that, right? So if it's flooded timber, what kind of trees are they, softwood or hardwood? How many acres are flooded? If it's, something smaller scale, like they have a road that's getting flooded out because beavers dammed a culvert and water's coming over the road and the road's not usable. Yeah. Okay, well, I can say this one road is probably going to take this much money to fix it, or it's worth this much. So that's quantifiable damage. Mm-hmm. And then what we'll do is we'll talk to the landowner and kind of be like, okay, what are y'all's goals? What do y'all want to have happen in this situation, right? Are those goals that I can meet through work that we can do? Is there something the landowner can do on their own? And then we'll move forward from there, either with them taking stuff into their own hands, or we can go into what we call a CSA, a cooperative service agreement, where they agree to pay USDA Wildlife Services a certain amount of money, and we'll come in and do direct control to relieve that damage.
What's the most interesting you've worked with?
There's a couple projects that come to mind. I've done work for some railroad companies that had, they had culverts that were getting clogged, but there were beavers, on their property and then off their property that were causing damage. So, I saw probably 110 acres of flooded area down there, and you see a lot of cool stuff. Down south, I've seen water moccasins. I've seen some pretty crazy stuff worked into beaver dams. I pulled 100-foot of garden hose out of one time, which was not fun. Yeah, typically the dams are made of small rocks, mud, sticks. And they just pack it all together. But if they'll find anything they can stick in there. I actually have a souvenir baseball bat from a Braves stadium that I found in a dam in my office. So you pull some wild stuff out of there sometimes.
Trophy.
Yeah, that's right.
Beavers are kind of cool to think about, though, how they build their dams. Pretty smart.
Yeah, they're an amazing animal. They're probably the only animal other than humans that modifies their environment the way they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they're ecosystem engineers, right? So they're really good, from a natural resources perspective, like creating habitat for fish, different vertebrates, waterfowl especially. They're awesome. I could sit here and talk for 4 hours about beaver life history and biology. We probably don't want to do that, but they're really cool animals. Just when they get into, we have especially in Georgia, we have a lot of human wildlife interface. And when they get into certain areas where they're causing damage, they're a cool animal, but they can cause a lot of damage really fast.
I've heard stories of beavers building dams and nobody's figured it out until they've flooded their whole entire backyard.
Oh yeah, we've had landowners before, and they're like, yeah, we just found out we had beaver problems a few months ago, which is normal because they kind of sneak up on you, and then we go out there and it's like, you've probably had beavers on your property for 4 years. They were just in this area where you couldn't tell they were there. And now it's to where it is, which is nothing on the landowner. That happens all the time. We've had beavers at our farm before, and we didn't know they were there until 2.5 years later. And oh my goodness, we've got a colony of beavers with 3 generations or 2 generations living in it.
Uh-oh.
That's right.
So are there any specific industries that you work with?
Yeah, there are. So timber industries are a really big one with beaver damage.
Yeah.
Right. They have a resource they're trying to protect, right? So they've planted, pine trees. And that's a long-term investment, right? They're expecting a return on these trees in, 20 years. Well, we're 3 years out from cutting, and beavers have come in and flooded 30 acres of our trees. Or a lot more common, they flooded an access road. And now, we're going to cut in a few months, and our trucks can't get back there. So that's definitely a big industry that we work with. We also do a lot with, I've had to go out of my typical area before, down to Midville, Georgia, which is probably 3 hours south of here. And they've gotten in pivot ditch drains. So they've got a center pivot on a field, and they've got a big irrigation ditch that either gets water to the pivot or drains it off the field, and the beavers plug them up and flood out 60 acres of cotton. If you're growing rice at the right time, that might not be a bad deal, but when you got cotton out there that's 3 weeks from harvesting, you don't want that much water sitting on it.
You don't.
So, those are 2 of our big ones, and then private landowners. We do a lot of work with HOAs, which does get outside of agriculture, but we're still managing that resource, that natural resource. So those are probably our 3 big ones, would be timber, some row crop, and then a lot of private landowners.
Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of money that can easily just go to waste with those.
It is. Beaver damage, it's really hard to estimate, but in the Southeast alone, it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars every year lost to beaver damage.
That's crazy. So what are your favorite and least favorite parts of your job?
So probably obviously my favorite part of my job is I get to be outside all the time, right? Like no one gets into this if they don't like being outside. So I get to see a lot of the state, getting places I never thought I'd be able to see before. Yeah. Probably one of my favorite places is we get to go to a WMA in Southeast Georgia. And, I've beaver trapped down there, done some other wildlife management work with them. And it's just beautiful. They have some upland pine stands. It's just something you don't see anymore. And they have bobwhite quail there, like natural population. So you get to sit in the evening, because we'll stay down there when we're down there and listen to the bobwhites, call in the morning, in the evening. I mean, down there they call all day long. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
One of my least favorite parts, I do get to kind of make my own schedule, right? Because the jobs are sent to me. I schedule and make sure they get done in a timely manner and efficiently. But sometimes the hours are rough. We do a lot of urban deer management. And with that comes odd hours. So, we'll be out from 10:30 at night till 2 o'clock in the morning counting deer, doing herd abundance surveys. And 4 nights of that in a row gets old really quick, especially when you're like me and you got 2 kids and a wife at home wondering why you're not home yet. So that can be hard. It's still really rewarding. But, sometimes it does come where you have a lot of really weird hours back to back to back to back. That can be a little hard. It takes some work to learn how to manage that. Yeah.
I guess it's nice to be able to schedule your own stuff, though.
It is. It's really nice. So, as the jobs come in, there's certain things throughout the year that I know I'm going to be doing, but everything else, I try to plan my jobs where they're within an hour of each other. This week I was out in LJ, so I was driving 2 hours and 15 minutes to LJ every day. And back every day.
That's a lot.
So I don't have somebody throwing something in Gwinnett County in my schedule that's going to add another 2 hours of driving to that. I can kind of make those jobs work so they're efficient for us and our cooperators.
Yeah. Do you have any specific stories you'd like to tell?
Yeah. So I've had some interesting stuff happen on the job before. Snakes don't bother me at all. Northeast Georgia, we don't have any venomous snakes other than timber rattlesnakes and copperheads. So we're not really worried about water moccasins. Well, we'll go down south, and those don't really worry me. But I did have a job one time where they had alligators on site. I'm not scared of alligators. You respect them, they respect you. Everybody's happy, but there were times I was wading around in, chest deep water, checking our traps. And, there's a 9-foot alligator that I saw here yesterday, and I don't see him today. So he's somewhere out here. I just don't know where he is.
Swimming by your
so
feet.
that was always a little kind of, made you a little wary knowing that there was a reptile that big swimming around with you. So that's probably one of the most interesting or crazy things I had to deal with was, getting in the water, knowing there's alligators down there. Which, like I said, they're nothing to worry about, just so long as you respect them. But it was still a little disconcerting not having grown up around that.
Like, you're just standing there, you feel just like a little something brush against your leg.
Yeah, which happens all the time in the swamp. So you do get a lot more jumpy when that kind of stuff's going on.
Oh, I would. Mm-hmm. Just you just see it like a few feet away, and you're just there. So my podcast, I think there's a lot of people who are looking for advice for a future career they may be interested in. And is there any that you have for your field?
Yeah, I do. I do have some advice. So one of the big things for me going through high school and especially, college was there were volunteer opportunities, right? So, I had the opportunity to volunteer with DNR and do check-in hunts. So people would bring in hunter harvested deer, and we would pull jawbones, age the deer, weigh the deer. You get to do a lot of really cool stuff with that.
That's
People would bring
pretty
in
cool.
bears, so we'd get to help collect data on bears for the state of Georgia. I helped with the research project that UGA was doing in Blue Ridge and Coopers Creek WMA, where they were rocket netting deer. So we're catching deer, immobilizing them, and then with a drug. We had a person on there who was trained to use that drug, and GPS collaring them. And then we'd go find, after they had their fawns, we'd go find those fawns, put a collar on them for a fawn depredation study, see what was eating, if those fawns were surviving. So I got to do some really cool stuff and meet some really good people. And the world of wildlife is really small. Like, I meet people who have worked in New York, and they went to college with my state director.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's just like, it's a tiny world. So
Yeah.
through those opportunities, I got to build some relationships with some people that I still hear about, I still see sometimes. And, always great references, So part of my advice is anytime you get a volunteer opportunity like that, take it. And not only take it, but show up, work really hard, be passionate, but stay humble. Ask questions, be willing to learn, because you never know. Those people you meet on those could be your boss one day. They could be the reference that gets you a job. So that's a really big and important thing. And then, another piece of advice, if it's something like what we do, find a mentor somewhere. Like my dad, he taught me how to beaver trap.
Yeah.
And not everybody has that. There's not a lot of opportunity for that now. But find somebody who knows how to do it, and then learn how to do it in a respectful and professional way, right? That's going to go a long way.
It will.
We work in an environment, where we're meeting with new people every day. They have a problem, and they want to know that they're hiring a professional to work with, not just somebody who knows how to trap beavers, but can do it efficiently, humanely. They know that when they show up, they're going to be on time. They're going to take care of things in a good and discreet manner and make sure the job's done right. So that's my advice is always any volunteer opportunity you have, take it and do the best you can while you're there. And then find somebody who can teach you some skills now, because that in the field experience is, a college degree is really important, but having that experience already and showing that you can do something is really important as well.
Yeah. That's good advice. The connections thing, the relationships, that can get you a long way. That's why I like FFA.
Yeah.
So you go on trips, national convention, you meet people all over the country.
I listened to your last episode. Owen's my father-in-law, and I was laughing.
Really?
Yeah, he's my father-in-law.
I didn't know that.
I heard that story about him, meeting the guy that would give him his first job. I'm like, that's it.
That's pretty cool.
That's it. You hold a door open for a guy, and then he's your boss. A couple years down the road, you never know.
You never know. That's
you never know.
You talk to people. Just be kind.
Yeah.
You never know what'll pop up and happen.
That's right.
So I heard you're a pretty avid reader. Do you have any books that you'd like to recommend?
I do. So one of my favorite books of all time, and there's one in particular. They have a couple different iterations of it. It's a Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. And if you're going to get the one that is a Sand County Almanac with essays on conservation from Round River. That is the best one in my opinion.
What's it about?
So Aldo Leopold, he's kind of considered the father of game management, right? So he wrote a bunch of essays on how we can live in harmony with the land and still use it for the purposes we use it for, right? Mm-hmm. So he kind of came up with the idea of a land ethic. Okay, so using the land for farming, using the land for recreation, and then also respecting the fact that it does have some inherent value, right? We don't want to remove everything from the land because a lot of that stuff that's there naturally are things that we value greatly and we don't want to lose. So really good book, really, really good book. He's I call him a preservationist and not a conservationist because he wants to preserve what's there, but he still wants to use the land. He's a pretty cool guy.
Sounds pretty cool.
But yeah, awesome book. Awesome collection of essays by him.
I have to read it.
Yeah, I recommend it to everyone. It's like $9 on Amazon.
That's pretty good.
It doesn't hurt your wallet too much to go get it and get into it, but it's a fantastic book.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay.
Go and get it.
Good.
Sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else you just want to say?
If anybody listening needs any kind of has any issues with wildlife, they're welcome to reach out to us. We're happy to talk to them, see what we can do to help them figure out what the best solution for their problem is. And see if that's something we can help with, So anybody that needs any kind of help with, beavers or, we do work with a few species in Georgia pretty heavily, beavers, Canada geese, stuff like that. Just reach out to us. We're happy to talk.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, sure thing. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.